Okay, we're back. This is the end of the last game. Cool. Yeah, okay. And I have game number 2, which is this one. I'm an e4 player, so I play e4 here. I played in e4, minor spoiler, I played e4 in all of my white games, and I got c5 in all of my white games as well, which is interesting. And this game I just played a knight f3, just an open Sicilian, I believe. No, wait, I played a delayed Alapin, slightly delayed. And after d6, this is actually pretty good for white, the delayed Alapin, compared to the normal Alapin at least, because the way to break this for black is actually to move d5 from here, but you already moved the d pawn, so it's just you gain a tempo, which is nice, and that's why I played this variation. You do get knight f6, and here I'm actually not sure what the move should be. I've seen someone play this once, and that, and then this, which I thought was funny. I don't think it's the move e5, although in a position without d6, e5 is in fact the move here. I'm genuinely not sure. I'll figure it out with the engine after this. I played queen c2, I think that makes sense. Bishop g4, which could be annoying here. However, I do get a really big center here, and they take on d4 again, and I basically own the center now, and this is not that big of a deal in theory. It does kind of block the knight out, which is nice. It does really give me some issues with castling, but I find a nice way to get my king safe, which we'll see later. Knight b to d7, just developing. I played knight c3, e6. E6 I'm not sure about, maybe I wanna play g6, but then maybe d5 and stuff. Because e6, this bishop won't even be all that great on e7, and it creates some slight weakness here, which I try to exploit almost immediately. I think knight b5 is threatening here, and in this position, knight b5, you get rook c8, and there's nothing here. But after knight bishop f4 and let's say pass, knight b5, rook c8, this might still be fine for black. Unfortunate. Whatever. But it does that. It's not even relevant because of knight h5 was the move, and my bishop gets kicked out. And I had two options. Either I go here, allow my opponent to take and fix my pawn structure, or I go here and just say that this knight is silly here, needs to go back, and then I kind of win a semi-tempo. Maybe play d5 on the next move. But after d5 immediately, then I just take that twice. So I had I mean, this bishop is good on e3. And especially since I have the bishop pair, that seems very useful. But I decided to just let my opponent take and fix my pawn structure. And then now I can castle kingside and stuff. Bishop e7. Oh, I forgot to mention, my opponent in this game has a rating of, again, around 1900. A bit lower than my first opponent, but still more than 100 points higher than me. I believe 1910 or something. Yeah, bishop e7, my opponent just almost finished development, and so do I. Maybe bishop g2 isn't accurate, but I thought it made sense. Castle, castle, and we're done. Queen b6 is a good move. Creates a pin here, puts pressure on b2. And the issue is that if I just defend like this, then e5, and I really want to be able to push d5 in cases. And I think actually in this position, no, I might not, I still have knight e2, so I don't actually lose a pawn yet. But the pressure here is going to be impossible to defend, so the only real move, which I also just played, was queen f2. Rook ac8, which makes sense. And I played the move d5. Trying to solve the queen issue by threatening to take to some extent, and also kind of threatening to damage black's pawn structure, because if I'm allowed to take, they're kind of forced to take back, and then they have 3 islands of, not there, 3 islands of 2. Whereas I have a 4 and a 2, and so I can pressure this pawn. Which seems reasonable to me. My opponent took here, and here I made the only inaccuracy of the entire game, I think. I mean, there are only 2 legal moves, and I should obviously play king takes. Obviously. But I just basically insta-moved rook takes, and bishop f6, and second rook that attacks our second piece that attacks c2, c3. After a while I managed to calculate that I can just take in between, because I take here and that's good enough. So my opponent just takes back. And now, to not lose a pawn, there's only one legal move, or one move that, yeah, one legal move that doesn't lose a pawn here, which is rook c2. Which creates a new issue. My knight is pinned. So, in theory, this would win a piece. So now I'm behind, I'm just kind of getting pressured, and I need to find a solution. It's really difficult, it turns out, and especially since this bishop doesn't... It can kind of contribute, but not really. Sorry. Had to yawn for a sec. So, yeah, I'm kind of in trouble here. It's not that bad yet, but it's unpleasant, to say the least. So my opponent tried to put a third piece on the attack, and I put a third piece on the defense. Still my knight is pinned, unfortunately. And now I need to find a plan of defense, basically. I looked at bishop h3, which just tries to win a pawn, but I think the tempo king f7 is positive for my opponent. And this is I believe this is too slow, because this is d5, d4 is really quick, and it's just one turn faster as well. Another thing I found, you can kind of save this in two moves, which is bishop f1, bishop d3. So what you can do is bishop f1, d5, bishop d3, d4, and then move the knight e2 or something. And then we trade, and I'd have to play against a passed pawn, but that's fine, because opposite color bishop, so it's just a draw. I mean, that's, again, opposite color bishops, it should just be a draw, but in this case I need to force it, and last time my opponent needed to force it. So rook c8, where were we? Yeah, there, bishop f1. My opponent actually didn't play this. My opponent tried a6 with b5, b4, but that's not as bad because I can defend it. So my opponent just wasted a couple of moves, which is fine because I just give them back after bishop d3 because of knight e5, which is a fork. I don't think I can prepare this with f4 because of d5. Maybe this is fine. I had calculated something that this might still be fine though. Maybe this knight goes here. Oh yeah, this was kind of the issue. No. Now I can move the knight, but then in the end the b pawn just hangs, which is also, I believe that's always an issue. Now I can take the knight in that variation. And this is just a draw. And it's very similar to the draw we had last time. Okay, so bishop d3, it was a bad move, but I don't think it matters. Knight e5, and I have to go back. b5, I'm forced to defend, so a3. I can't play b4 because then the knight hangs again. a5, threatening b4. f4. I assumed actually knight c4, which I would then be basically no, I can't actually take it, but I have this. That was the point, I believe. So after a5 I could also take here, but then they take here, which seems like a bad trade for me, especially if they go to d4 and win a piece. So I play f4, and my opponent plays b4 here. Now I'll take a drink so you can get, like, I don't know, let's say half a minute or so. Figure out white's play to not lose a pawn here. Good luck. Nice. So there's a lot going on here. This is hanging, this is hanging. I will lose this piece. The issue seems to be that if I win this piece, I'll show you what I'll actually show you the line that happened in the game, because I believe it's the only way to save this. So it seems to be that if I take, they just take back, and I would lose a full piece here. I don't even get a pawn for it. In which case I'd lose a pawn. But I have a brilliant trick here. It starts with bishop g4. If they take the piece, I win this pawn, and that's all good enough. And if they defend, like with the rook, then I can move the knight, and I win the game on the spot, because I'm up a piece. And the only other move is king f7. Now I trade, doesn't matter exactly, but yeah. Now I play the move rook f1 check. There are two moves. King e7, or to defend this at least. Because if you don't defend this, I just take, and rook is hanging. So I win, I believe. So there are only two moves, bishop f7 and king e7. In the game, when I was calculating this, I assumed that bishop f6 was losing, because I believed in the end I had e5, but I don't actually. E5 would win a piece in theory, but I don't actually have that. King e7. Oh yeah, this was the point. Knight d5 check. And if you don't take, I just win everything. So you have to take, and I trade here with check and take back. And now this is sufficient counterplay for at least I mean, it's a draw still. It's still a draw. But you know, right? Is it? Wait. Did I miss something that... I believe it still should. Wasn't there a way to save this? It might actually have been this. Maybe not. Oh yeah, this is just totally fine, because I win here, and this is just a draw still, and I don't lose a pawn. Okay, so that's the one way. The other way is after bishop f6, which I assumed in the game loses, but that was what my opponent played. After which I need to find the move knight b5. Which forks, and meaning I can sack my full rook here. King went to e7. Yeah, and then I win an exchange, and in the end I lost a piece, but that's fine because I was going to lose a piece regardless, and I can play b3 and save my pawn just in time. And here it's just a draw again. This time my opponent didn't have to, or didn't play it out for that much longer. My opponent is still better though. Rook c2, I played bishop d1, and my opponent offered a draw here and I accepted. So 2 draws, first 2 games, against people with at least 100 rating points above me. Good start, I think. I mean, could have won one. Let's see how I could have done here. I think this is was always a draw if not losing for me, but I think it's just always a draw. Bishop c4. Oh, you just sack the pawn, and oh, and there's a queen a4 check, so you can't actually take unless I play bishop c4, but in that case fascinating line. Bishop c4, take, check. I was just looking at this line. You sack the piece and then take back, and now it's a trade. Yeah, fine. But queen c2 is fine. This is okay for me after d4, which makes sense. Yeah, bishop e3. Yeah, I guess I was considering that as well, but I think bishop f4 also makes sense, especially after e6. h4 also funny, but I think this just makes sense. And d5 is actually playable. Wait, d5 is... Then this should... Is it that you're in just barely in time with this check? And you can just barely castle in time and not lose everything after these types of moves. Okay. But this is bad because of bishop e3, but this is also good for me. H takes was interesting. I considered it for like 10 seconds. But this makes sense to me. Castle, queen, queen makes sense. And now d5 is one of the main moves, I guess. f4 is also seems good to... Okay, I guess not king f2. You take on d6 immediately, and yeah, I did. And bishop h3. Ah. Because king f7 and then... Or knight... And then knight b5. Okay. Yeah. Wait. There's still... Oh, and rook d1 defending. Took some time. I missed that this also defends d4, but this looks like a house of cards to me. But you do need to defend. Okay, maybe this is good. I can see it. Okay. But this is bad, which I knew. I'm slightly worse here, which I knew. I assumed that there was no other way. Knight e5, yeah, I let that happen. Just go back. b5. f4 immediately. Also makes sense. But I thought I gained the tempo here, sort of. f4, you have to play b4 to keep an advantage, which makes sense to me. Take. And now, yeah, bishop a6 was the other move, but then you lose. You can save the knight but lose the bishop. But you don't actually get a pawn in that variation, so I was curious. That I didn't think that was good, but bishop g4 was definitely one of the best moves. Oh, now it just says bishop g4 and not queen bishop a6. King f7. Yeah, I mean you can take in between, it doesn't matter, I don't think. And I was scared of rook f2. I don't think it matters all that much. Yeah, king e7 or bishop f6 is the best try apparently. e5. Yeah. e5 immediately. Okay, I guess you can be down 2 full pawns, but that's still just a draw. Yeah. And now, I mean, this is just a draw. Apparently not. Well, I mean it is, but I do need to prove it. But my opponent didn't force me to prove it, fortunately. But like, what you gonna do? Oh, the king can move up. because I can't actually do anything here. Because I saw that I could get to here, and then I didn't see what else to do. Can try this. Oh, but then I lose that pawn. So h6, a3. Oh, but then I lose this pawn. Okay, this wasn't as much of a draw as I assumed, but I mean it should still be a draw, right? Don't think I can lose enough material for this not to be a draw if I just play it well here, if I just don't do anything. I can try this. Let's see. Yeah. I was going to go here like a tempo, but I guess not. Maybe this is winning. Would be fascinating. I would have assumed that this would be holding. This is a table base. I'll put it in a table base and then see. Maybe the king is too close, and this might be too easy, and my king is kind of cut off. I'll take a look at the table base, and actually I can just open a new tab, which is something you don't see right now. I'll put it in once I find something. Okay. There. Rook on f1, bishop on d1, rook on b6, or b2, sorry. Bishop, pawn on 6, king here, and isn't this a table base? This is 8 pieces, right? White to move. Oh, it does say losing. Wait, sorry, that's not true. There are a couple of moves, all the piece sacks it can calculate. Oh, this is only a 7-piece table base. There are 8-piece table bases, right? I guess not. Yeah, no. Give it another 10 years, then there's an 8-piece table base. I thought that the 8-piece table base was very recently finished, but I guess not. In that case, I have no clue if this is winning or not. But maybe it just is. I mean, the numbers are getting higher in the negatives, which is never positive. Yeah, this seems to be winning. That's not good, especially since my opponent offered a draw. My opponent offered a draw. Where did they do that? Here. Here. They offered a draw. I mean, maybe not bishop d1 then. Whatever. It was a draw. It's accepted as a draw. I'm happy. And tomorrow I'll probably do the next the rest of the 4 games. The rest of the 6 games, the last 4 games. And let's see if I can actually get a win. Because the first 2 were 2 draws against people that are very strong, and there's a chance that the next players get a lower rating. Not lower than me, of course, because that would be insane, right? If a player has a lower rating than me that I have to face. But maybe I'll play against someone with a rating of like 1850 somewhere around this competition. That seems decent, right? I can probably have chances there, you know. And of course against the 1920 I also had chances. But I'll see you on the next one.